Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Free Advice Friday. I have with me today the amazing Nancy Christie. Nancy and I met at a writers' conference a few weeks ago in Florida, but Nancy, you're not in Florida, are you? Where are you sitting right now?
I'm in Northeast Ohio, in Youngstown, which isn't too far from Cleveland. And yes, I was just down there doing book signing things and visiting with my son when I could fit him in. But now I'm back home again.
Now, Nancy, you are the author of a series of books, or the series is just getting started, Rut Busting. Tell me a little bit about the Rut Busting book you have now and what you're working on.
Okay, well, the Rut Busting book I have right now, which is Rut Busting Book for Writers. This came out in 2017, and it actually grew out of a series of workshops I had been doing, which were Rut Busting Books for Writer or Rut Busting Workshops for Writers, all of creative rut, setting your writing goals, stop procrastinating, very maternal, bossy mother type things. So I come by it naturally. I had two kids, and since they're all grown and away from home, I have to tell somebody what to do. So that's why I do workshops. But anyways, so I started doing that one, and actually that book grew out of a series of rut busting workshops I was doing, which came when I developed that after my first book came out in 2004. And my first book, The Gifts of Change, no, it came out, when did it come out? 2004? Yes, 2004. Hard to remember. Way back when. And that book was very kind of inspirational, encouraging, break out of your rut, quit being stuck. So first I was doing just regular rut busting workshops, and then people wanted writing related workshops. And since I'd been in the business since before computers, now I'm dating myself, I started doing the rut busting for writers, and then people wanted a book. So then I wrote that book. Oh, what can I tell you? Anyways, so the next book I am working on is Rut Busting Book for Authors. So this will be specifically for people who are in whatever stage of writing a book. They're either writing it now, they're in the middle of publishing it, they're trying to figure out how to promote it. And like the other Rut Busting book, I am going to draw heavily on all the people that I have met over the years, including you, lovely Amy, who will share information, because I don't know enough to tell people what to do, when it comes to publishing and marketing and writing. I only know what works for me. So by getting input from other authors, from people who help authors promote their work, from publishers, literary agents, this will enable me to give them more information, give them a fuller menu list to draw from, to get some advice from. So if all goes well, that one will come out in the fall. So that's what I work on every morning.
So have you found, working with so many writers and authors, I guess I'm curious, question number one, what's the difference between a writer and an author?
Okay, I'm going to use my definition, because for years I was a writer. Okay, I wrote for magazines, I wrote for newspapers, I wrote for clients, but I did not have a book. So my definition, which not everybody agrees with, but too bad, I looked it up on the internet. My definition of an author is somebody who has produced a book, or they've authored a screenplay, like a solid, complete thing. So,
great. Now, have you found in your work with authors, do a lot of them fall into ruts? Is procrastination or stopping a problem for a lot of the writers and authors you've worked with?
Yeah, a lot of the ones that I've interviewed over the years, because I have a blog where I interview authors, that's one of the questions I have. And, I don't know whether it's necessarily procrastination. Sometimes you get in the middle of writing something, and about 40,000 words in, you just hit a roadblock. Nothing is going the way it's supposed to be, and the characters are not behaving at all. So, that can be very challenging. That's part of it. The other part of it is simply making time for it. Because unless you've been very fortunate to get a wonderful publishing contract and a nice big whopping advance check, you usually have to do something else to keep the lights on while you're writing the next book. And so there's that juggling and the guilt and the fear. All those are a little challenging when you're trying to be a creative person. So yes, that's one of the most common things. And you're always afraid. You're never sure you're going to be able to finish it. And if you finish it, are people going to buy it? Are they going to like it? Are they going to hate it? So, oh yeah.
Well, what do you do? What are some of your practices and habits to stick with it? You were talking about making the time, and I mean, I've only known you for a little bit, but I don't think you got a 7-figure deal recently that I think I would have heard about it. So how do you make time?
I have to say, I am a very driven, organized, schedule crazy person. Okay. I've been like this my whole life, so it's not something new that I developed. I get up at 4:00 in the morning. Sometimes I'll sleep until 4:45, but not very often, because then the cat thinks I died and starts walking on me. But I get up at 4. By 5:00, I'm in my office, and because my office is in my home, so don't have to get dressed. And that is when I work on the next book, or that is when I work on my short stories, which fiction is kind of like my addiction, my secret pleasure, my non-income producing, but oh, it makes me feel so good. So that's when I do my work, okay? And then by 9:00 is when I start my paid work, which is I'm a freelance copywriter. So from 9 till 4 or 5, give or take, is when I'm either working on client projects or, beating up people trying to get work, because when you're a freelancer, you're always looking for work. So that's my schedule Monday through Friday, and Saturday is when I do everything else, all the marketing and more writing and the submissions and the this and the research.
All right. So you're one of those people that I know my authors are going to say, yes, but I'm not driven and I'm not a schedule person. And then you just mentioned marketing and you mentioned hustling. Talk to me a little bit about the ruts that some of the people you've worked with have gotten into when it comes to marketing and promotion. Kind of where do you see the pitfalls there? What have you seen?
And it was funny, because the conference you and I were at, I saw this so clearly. Okay. And if we're going to talk strictly about writers who are trying to market their book, authors who are trying to market their book, people are very uncomfortable putting themselves out there. Okay. And I can completely understand and sympathize with that, because I can tell you a funny story about myself. When my first book came out, okay, The Gifts of Change. Now, up till then, I'd been writing professionally, magazines, newspapers, but I was the person doing the interviewing. I was not the other person, okay? So my publisher invited me to come to the Book Expo in Chicago at McCormick Place. And the book wasn't out yet. It wasn't coming out for a few more months. So we didn't even have a mock-up of the cover. And they said, well, just bring some handouts. Now, again, back in 2004, what did I know? I hadn't even planned on writing a book. So I knew nothing about producing handouts. So I made up these things on a Word document, printed them on colored paper. What did I know, right? I mean, it was really cheesy. So, get to McCormick Place, and what's the first thing I see? First person I see is Amy Tan. That was enough. That destroyed what tiny molecule of confidence I had, because I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm in the same room with Amy Tan. And then I start looking around. It's like, oh, and that person's here. And these are all authors that I recognized. And I felt like a total fraud. I felt like I didn't belong there. I would have been perfectly comfortable covering it, but not being there, because they were authors and I felt like a fraud. So basically what I did was went to the second floor of McCormick Place, found the ladies' room, and sat there for 3 hours. I mean, no lie, I was terrified. So I had to talk myself out of it, because I didn't want my publisher finding me in the bathroom and yelling at me. So I went back down on the floor, and I decided I would pretend, this is so ludicrous, I would pretend that I was covering the event for a magazine. So then it was very easy for me to walk up to anybody and everybody and ask them, oh, is this your first time, at the Book Expo, and what do you like about it, and what new books, and blah, blah, blah. And, everybody had a badge. Okay. And of course the press people they were smart. They all turned their badge around so nobody would bother them. So I turned mine around so nobody saw that it said author. And then at some point in the conversation, they would say, oh, are you a reporter? And I would say, no, I have a book that's coming out in the fall. So very subtle, very subtle. So, clearly I've gotten over that because I have no trouble at all talking about my books. But what I noticed, going back to the original question, when we were at the conference, because I knew I'd be working on the next book, I wanted to gather some business cards. So I would walk around every chance I had and ask people, oh, can I have a business card? Do you have bookmarks? Do you have anything about your books? I mean, nobody carried their book with them, or at least very few of them did. Only some of them had books or postcards or anything about their book. Some of them didn't even have business cards. They were like hesitant. They were afraid. And I thought, wow, you got to get over it. I mean, here you're among friends. You're at a writing conference. We're all writers. And I think in general, especially when it's the first book, unless you already have massive amounts of self-esteem, it's very hard for you to get out there and say, I wrote a book, because generally if you're in public, the very next question is going to be, oh, how many have you sold? Who is your publisher? And heaven help you if you self-published it, because then they just sort of look away. I really feel for the new authors because they're afraid to do it. And of course, if you don't get over it, you don't promote your book. You have to promote your book. You have to promote yourself.
Now, you just mentioned business cards, bookmarks. There's a lot of people out there, and I actually don't have an opinion one way or the other, but there's people out there who believe that in this day and age, old-fashioned materials like bookmarks and business cards they're over. Other people believe that you have to have certain materials when you're promoting yourself as an author. So in your experience, what has worked for you? What do you think is the bare minimum? Any author who's publicly having a book come out, what do they need and how should they use them?
They should definitely have business cards. And I'll tell you why. Sure, everybody says, oh, well, they could look you up on the internet. How are they going to remember you until they get to a computer? Okay, I mean, shameless. I have handed out my business cards in bathrooms. I don't care. When I'm on an airplane, that's a captive audience. So I'll
show you, shameless. My business cards have my picture on them. So they remember me after, and they have the cover of my book on the back.
That's beautiful. And that's exactly it. And here's the thing. The business cards that I was able to pick up in Florida. So when I came back home, I thought, all right, let me put these all on my list. There were business cards that had a person's name and an email and nothing else. It's like, I don't know who you are. I don't have a web address. I'm sorry. I am not going to take the time to look you up, to try and track you down. I mean, so you should have a business card. If you're doing multiple things, like mine says author, writer, blogger, speaker, whatever. I don't even remember what it says right now.
Pole dancer, right? That's one of them.
Hey, whatever pays the bills. But seriously, you should have your contact information, phone number, and an email. I mean, really, website, and something that gives the person, 3 weeks later when they look at the business card, something that tells them, what is it exactly? Oh, are you a historical novelist? What exactly is it that you do? Don't make us guess. I run into this as somebody who interviews authors. I run into this all the time. It's like, don't make me have to work to track you down. Mm-hmm. And if I finally track down your website, don't ever let me get there and find out that there is no email, just a fill in the blank form. I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it.
No, but very few people do. And when authors say to me, I don't want to give out my phone number, then they're not interested. I mean, literally, launching a book is a business, and you need to have a phone number. You have to have an email address. Those forms are clever if you are Seth Godin. You're not Seth Godin. You know, just give us your email, give us your phone number. If you don't want to give us your home number, I get that. Skype numbers are $30 a year. Google numbers are less. You know, go get a second number and can forward to an app on your phone, on your cell phone. It's super easy, guys. Do not make us track you down.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right, because, hey, if I can't find you to interview you on my blog, I can't connect with you, the New York Times isn't going to put a whole lot of effort into tracking you down either.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, people can find me anywhere. I mean, my my mailing address is there. I use a P.O. box since I work out of my home. You know, I don't want to put my home address anywhere. But hey, you know, you can find me, send up a smoke signal. You can't find me. I am findable.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, just get over it, because people, otherwise, how are you going to get people to buy your stuff if you are just so unable to be found, you know?
So that's some of the reticence that you've heard. People who are a little reticent to promote themselves, people who are reticent to get their contact information out there. Now, but you focus a lot not only on the writing side of things, but also on the business side of things. And that's a lot. Like, I focus mainly on the business side, sales and marketing. Don't ask me about your novel or editing. I don't know anything about that. I write in the passive voice. I use completely unnecessary ellipses. No. But you've got both hats going. So I'm curious, did you have any mentors or people who coached you along the way? Or, I mean, what is it? How did you learn all of these things on both sides of the aisle?
Well, I have been self-employed just about my entire adult life. When I was married before, my ex-husband and I had a business together. Okay, so I had to, by default, since I was running the business, the office side of it, I had to learn about business. You know, that was, heck, when I was in high school, those many years ago, you know, that was never my plan to be a businesswoman. I was always going to be some kind of a writer. So, you know, what can I tell you? You do what you got to do. So that is how I learned about running a business. And it doesn't matter whether you're selling toilet bowls or you're selling novels. It's a business. It's just, you know, it's just a business. That's also where I got my probably my determination from and everything, because, you know, when you are the support of your family, you don't screw around. You do what you got to do. So, and as for the writing, I mean, it's just so natural. I've been writing since second grade. I don't know how not to write.
But not everyone has. So where do you suggest they go to get guidance? How do people who don't just have your sassy sense of moxie and the fact that you've been writing since, you know, you wiped the fluid from behind your ears, I mean, how do you help people who haven't been doing it as long?
One of the things I encourage them is to join a writing group. You know, if there is no writing group in your community, make up one. Okay, get one together, because I'm sure there's writers wherever these people live, and they're all saying the same thing. Gee, I don't know anybody else like me. Join a writing group, because a writing group automatically starts giving you a sense of belonging. It gives you a place to bounce your actual writing. You know, you take turns reading, work aloud, getting feedback, but then you also talk to people. If they are further along the path than you can find out what are they doing in terms of marketing. I tell them to go to writing conferences. I mean, the one that we were at, I mean, I came away, I thought my head was going to explode. I learned so much. You can always learn.
I do want to throw out there, it was called the Florida Writers Conference. It's held the second week in October every year down in Orlando, Florida. So just throwing that out there, guys. But the
Yes.
Florida Writers Conference, it was an amazing experience.
It was, and that was my first time. I'm a member, but that was my first time ever attending. And I haven't been to a writing conference in a lot of years because both my parents were ill. So, you know, you pick and choose where your time goes. Mm-hmm. But anyways, So that is another thing. The libraries are really stepping up their game in terms of offering multi-author events, many times combined with panel discussions. I was just at one up by Lake Erie, and it was the same thing. You know, they had 3 different panel discussions on different aspects of writing. So this is also, I mean, you've got to get out there, and of course, read books. I have way more books than you can imagine on every aspect of book marketing, book promotion, all that, because when my first book came out, I knew nothing. And of course, things were way different in 2004. And it's still different. It is constantly changing. So you have to really, you have to make every effort you can. The good thing is nowadays, there's a lot of podcasts you can listen to. Oh, like maybe yours. There are a lot of newsletters you can sign up for. There's just so much information on the web that wasn't there way back when, you know. So, you know, it is just, and find out what you feel most comfortable doing and start there. If you're not real comfortable doing in-person things to promote your book, okay, then maybe do some online interviews or something. I mean, eventually you have to try everything, but at least I always tell people, start where you're most comfortable, because then you feel like you're in your right space, and then keep pushing yourself. You always got to be raising the bar. But yeah, I mean, just keep learning. I mean, it takes a lot of time. I'm not going to lie to you. I basically have no life, but this is my life, you know. So I'm happy because I love what I'm doing. I mean, someday I'll get a 7-figure book advance, and I can hire an assistant to do all the really boring, tedious tasks. But in the meantime, you know, I love what I'm doing. So it makes it a lot easier when you love it. If you don't love it, then you shouldn't be doing it. You know,
Even
I mean,
the tedious, boring tasks. I mean, I don't love cutting and pasting from Excel either, but I love what I do for a living, so I cut and paste from Excel. Mm-hmm. Well, Nancy, this has been fascinating. Now, tell us your website. Tell us how people can get a hold of you if they'd like to.
Absolutely. It is very easy because I wanted people to associate my name with my website. So it is nancychristie.com, NancyChristie. And yes, it was inspired by Agatha Christie. I actually legally changed my name after I got divorced. And that was the name that was a pseudonym I was using when I worked for the newspapers and the magazine. So I said, hey, I'm already used to answering it, so I'll just legally change it. But yes, because she actually was an inspiration, not the fiction that she wrote, but her autobiography.
Yeah.
She's very practical. Yes. Yeah. So yes, they can track me down on my website. My blogs are on there. There's a lot of fantastic author interviews. So, you know, you really get a sense when you check in the interviews of how people structure their writing life, which is always great. Just all kinds of information. What can I tell you?
If you're watching this on the New Shelves YouTube channel, the Free Advice Friday section, then you will see Nancy Christie's website right below this video, www.nancychristie.com. You'll also have her contact information and mine, because we are not shy. We put it out there, guys. If you're listening to this on an audio podcast, either on Apple or any one of your favorite formats, go please to newshelves.com/FAF. newshelves.com/Free Advice Friday. We will have a subpage set up just for Nancy and for this video or for the audio and anything that she mentioned, including, Nancy, if you've got a sample of anything or a link to anything that you wanted people to see, we'll put them right on that page for you. And thank you so much for joining me today.
I have enjoyed this. It's always nice to talk to you because you're such a perky person.
All right, guys.
And you're such an intelligent person.
I like to think so. But
yes.
Guys, we're going to see you next Friday at Free Advice Friday. I want to thank Nancy Christie again, and we will see you next Friday. Keep those questions coming. Send them to info@newshelves.com. If you send me your questions before Thursday at noon, I will answer them on next week's Free Advice Friday, where you can ask Amy anything.